Hey guys, Dark Prometheus here. Welcome back to some more Bears with Dark. We have the Bengals week 9. A little bit of a preview for you guys going into this game. Bears are 4-3, looking to move to a 5-3, and likely being a 5-3 will be buyers at the deadline, because I believe the deadline is on Tuesday. Let me check this right quick. The deadline is November 4th at 4 p.m. So that would be on Tuesday at 4 p.m. ET. So a lot of stuff going on. I don't expect a Bears trade, obviously, in the next 24 hours. So we're going to roll with this. So Bengals looking to try to save their season. Joe Flacco at QB. Actually did a pretty decent job last week, but I think the defense, just them stalling in the second part of that game, allowed Justin Fields to get that win, the first of the Jets. And at this point, I think there's no other unwin teams. I think everyone has a win at this point. We're looking at the standings. Yes, everyone has a win because the Titans have won as well. So that is there. Bengals trying to get at least this season turned around at 4-5. I would still think they're middle of the road. Maybe they're buyers, maybe they're sellers. I think at that point you're probably anchoring the middle of the road to sellers, but possibly. But if you drop to 3-6, I think at this point you would be sellers. I don't expect any trade stuff to come from the Bengals. The main player that would actually two is a corner, Cameron Britt, but I don't really need a corner at this point. Maybe more corner depth, but maybe it's a guy that is familiar with Dennis Allen's scheme. So there's a couple of guys out there that kind of talked about last week, but also signing this week we'll also go over for this game. But mainly Trey Hendrickson, but the Bears can't afford that under the cap space. So it kind of is what it is on that point. So, Chicago, we need this win. And we'll first go over some of the injuries because that goes into the transactions that have went through. So, injury report for this week. Luther Burden is out with a concussion. Still is in concussion protocol. One thing to note here, Swift. That's not great. Didn't practice all week. He's going to be out. So, Kyle Monangai. I think it's a Kyle Monangai game in Travis Homer. So I'm not particularly big on this. So there's that. But he's been battling that groin injury for the past 3 to 4 weeks. So eventually I think it was going to bother him. Dominic Robinson out with that high ankle sprain for at least the next 2 to 3 weeks. Ben Maniga is out as well. One thing that I don't see on this injury report, and I believe they did do the transaction. They didn't send him back. So we will likely see Austin Booker out on the field for the first time this year in a regular season game. So I'm excited about that. Grady Jarrett, that was just a rest. Cole Kmet was full practice on Friday, so expect him to be out there, maybe some limited snaps. DJ Moore has been this do not practice and then limited and full the last couple of weeks, so I kind of expected that. Roma Dunze with that heel, kind of the same idea. Tyreek Stevenson is expected back for this one, and just Joe Thuney's just a rest. And then Zacchaeus, same thing with that knee, got banged up, but again, we should be good. So at least the receiving core is healthy besides Luther Burden with that concussion. For Cincy, Oren Burks can be questionable. I think this is meaning he's not going to be there. It's kind of weird, but Flacco is questionable. So this one thing is the thing to actually look out for this game. Is it going to be Joe Flacco or is it going to be Browning? Is his name? I keep on wanting to say Brandon Browning, but Jake Browning is his name. So it could be possibly going to be a game time decision, but could be Browning out there, and you could have a better time for this defense. Hendrickson has been dealing with a hip for I think a lot of the season and a back. So that's one of the things that, like, if you're going to get him and you have to pay him $30 million or whatever, and he's not completely healthy, that's one thing. BJ Hill, he should be out there. It was just a rest. Cedric Johnson, since he was all full practice, he should be good. Dalton Reisner, this one for an illness. We'll see how he feels. That's probably game time. Cameron Sample, knee, full practice. We'll see if he's out there, especially not having Trey Hendrickson. He would be needed out there for some depth. Logan Wilson didn't practice all week with that calf. He's doubtful. And then Marco Wilson, the same. So maybe the unspecified is out or this. I don't know. I don't know why it seems to have this for obviously the team. Maybe if I go to the Bengals website. Let's see. So yeah, they have the same thing on the Bengals website. So I'm not sure. That's kind of weird. But let's go to the transactions because there's a couple of key things that we'll likely see with that. So some of the transactions they did do because of the injuries there, they elevated Britton Brown to the active roster from the practice squad. So we'll see him probably as the 2 or the 3 back in that. I don't think it's going to be enough. 3 running backs. I'd feel like you would need a 4th, but I mean, that's kind of me on there. So he was activated here. But yeah, so he is activated. He's designated for return. So Austin Booker will be playing that. I didn't notice that. He will be playing in this game this weekend, which is nice. This is Garvin and Newman. Just some guys that are familiar with either Ben Johnson or actually familiar with the Packers, or in Garvin's case, I think he's familiar with Dennis Allen, possibly. I'm not sure with that, but just bringing in pieces for competition. You can never have enough competition. Yeah, Samir Turner did have an ACL injury. I think he tore it with this one, so he is out remainder of the year. Then we know about Kyler Gordon and all of that. The biggest thing this week is the signing of CJ Gardner-Johnson. So if you don't know, he spent some time with the Saints and then had a stint with the Eagles where they won the Super Bowl. I think this, yes, he is a very chippy player. He's going to come out. He's going to rile up some other guys on the other team. I feel like, though, he's familiar with how this defense is ran. I'm pretty happy with the fact that Dennis Allen has before gotten some good stuff from him. But I think just in Dennis Allen's defense, they were great. It's just that that offense was not good for the Saints under him. So I think they struggled at times with that. But having him pull in, I'd expect him, like, because of the injury to Tyreek Stevenson, I was thinking, like, okay, maybe he's going to play a little outside. He can't play outside. But I think if you put him in here, he's playing your nickel. Yes, Gordon isn't in here because he is on injured reserve for the next 3 weeks. The injured reserve designated to return. You don't know the status, though, of how it is. Your secondary is banged up. Jalen Johnson is, if he does come back, you're talking about mid-December to late December. You need to be pushing for a playoff spot if you're even considering activating him back off that. So you need to put yourself in a position to where you can actually bring him back if you're fighting for a playoff. Now, that's not saying that we are definitely in it. Like, at the end of the day, I had the Bears losing that game last week against the Ravens, Lamar Jackson. It ends up being not Lamar Jackson, but they still lose it. So realistically, 5-3. You still have 2 games against the Packers, 1 against the Lions, 1 against the Vikings. With this, there is still some battling you can do in the NFC North to get back up here. And then your remainder of the schedule does get a little bit more favorable. So you're talking about the Bengals without Joe Flacco, possibly. Then Cam Scatterboo, which is their great running game in New York, with down an injury. So that's a winnable game at this point, depending on how you fluster Dart and how that plays. JJ McCarthy should be back. Maybe you can fluster him a little bit, or Carson Wentz. We'll kind of see how that goes. So you could win your next 3 games. This one will be a hard game against Rodgers and the Steelers. Then, of course, a hard game against the Eagles. Then you go into Packers, which on the other side is the Browns. So you could be looking at 1, 2, say 3. Let's say you split with the Packers. So 4, 5. I mean, you're looking at possibly getting to what I projected to be an 8-9 or a 9-8 season. Will that probably get you in the playoffs? Probably not. Because the Rams, 49ers, and there's going to be one team out of here. So it's these teams have to beat each other up a bit. So it's still in there. And so you're talking about maybe you get Jalen Johnson back. You're probably going to eventually deactivate Kyler Gordon at this point of the season and put him on long-term IR just to get, or you got to get him healthy. You can't go this back and forth. And I think a player can't be on injured reserve, designated to return or whatever twice in a year. So if Kyler Gordon can't go, do you keep that spot? What do you do? That's one thing. Also with Braxton Jones, I don't think you can actually trade a guy that's on short-term IR. I don't know the rules on that. You never know, but I don't think that would be the case. So it's just a situation where I think we'll have to see how, because he did play for the Texans this year, and he was cut not last week, maybe the week before, somewhere in there. So he has played. It's just the Texans have not been a good defense this season. And I think him coming into this defense will give him a bit of familiarity and will help with the Bears in the slot. So we'll see how this one goes. It's the Bengals this week, and then we'll have a post game on Sunday night or on Monday. So that kind of wraps up everything with the Bears. And then, of course, if there's a big trade during next week, we'll have an extra video next week. Is big trade. Yeah, I don't see that happening, but you never know. Bears win this. Maybe they take a swing, and you could see some trade activity on there. There's a lot of rumors, but hey, we'll have to see how that goes. So thanks for hanging out. I will see you for the post game. Hopefully you enjoy the game. I'm going to be watching it with my dad, and so hopefully you find a place to enjoy the game and watch it, and we get some good game. Caleb, please get out there. I love to see it. We need to get DJ Moore a little bit more involved. So thanks for hanging out, and bear down. Later, guys.